to go. All right. I want to welcome everybody to the March 11th meeting of the Hood River County School District Board of Directors. We will gavel in at 6:31. Welcome, everybody. As you may notice, Mr. Newton is not here tonight. He is actually at a conference in Pennsylvania, and so he's going to be joining us online. And thank you all for being here on this super rainy evening. Are there any revisions to the agenda?
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have a revised personnel report. We have revised renewals, extensions, and non-renewals, non-extensions, as well as a budget update that will be shared for the first time when Mark and I present in a little bit.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Newton? Everybody had an opportunity to see those. I think Megan sent them out this afternoon. All right, thank you. We'll move right into the superintendent report then.
All right. Well, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. This evening, I am joining the board meeting virtually because I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, attending a Rural Guided Pathways Conference at the invitation of Dr. Lawson, president of Columbia Gorge Community College. During this conference, we were exploring new ways our high school and the college can collaborate on pathways for our students. So I'm excited about the possibilities around collaboration and partnerships with our local community college. A little side note too, for the first time ever, I got to experience a tornado warning here in Pennsylvania. So it was kind of new to them as well. But continuing on here, so on Monday, we announced the appointment of Jessica Ramirez as a new principal at Hood River Valley High School effective July 1st, 2026. As was shared in our district-wide communication, the selection follows a comprehensive search and a robust evaluation process that concluded on March 2nd. The process included multi-stakeholder interview panels with students and staff, writing assessments, and public forums that allowed parents and community members to provide direct feedback. Throughout the interview process, Ms. Ramirez demonstrated a strong alignment with our school district's strategic goals and a clear commitment to fostering an equitable, student-centered culture. I am confident that her leadership will support the continued success and growth of our students and staff. Ms. Ramirez brings a wealth of experience as an educator and administrator. As a fluent Spanish speaker, she expressed a strong commitment to serving a community with a rich history of cultural diversity. Ms. Ramirez currently serves as an assistant principal at Reynolds High School and previously held principal and leadership roles in the Gresham-Barlow School District. At Reynolds, she has been instrumental in developing systems for student management and engagement, empowering staff to proactively support student safety and personal connections. I am excited to welcome Jessica Ramirez to the leadership team at Hood River Valley High School. In addition, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to interim principal Jim Donnelly. Stepping into an interim principal role is really challenging. It requires leading with full commitment while navigating a period of uncertainty. Jim could have easily focused on maintaining the status quo. However, instead, he led with heart, integrity, and a deep commitment to the school. I really do appreciate his leadership this school year and believe he will continue to play an integral role supporting Jessica and the HRVHS staff as the assistant principal next school year. So the short legislative session concluded on March 6th. Fortunately, major cuts or reductions to K-12 funds that go directly to students, school districts, and ESDs were avoided. This includes the State School Fund, all Student Success Act funded programs, and state grant and aid programs. This also includes the local option equalization grant that supports our levy. Our collective advocacy helped protect and mitigate cuts to K-12 funding for our students and schools. I want to thank our board and community members who wrote letters or spoke with our legislators advocating for schools to be kept free from budget reductions this session. Despite the positive news from state legislative session, our school district is still facing budget reductions due to declining enrollment and ongoing PERS costs, including the site account that is falling off in 2027. In addition to our advocacy at the state level, I want to thank the staff and community members who attended our budget forums last week. Hearing your priorities and concerns firsthand is vital as we navigate these fiscal challenges. We will be building on those conversations during the detailed budget update that CFO Mark DeMoss and I are presenting later this evening. This past week, our principals and directors met individually with Cabinet to present their mid-year continuous improvement plan reviews, providing a data-driven look at our schools and departments' progress. This was an opportunity for our principals and directors to share the action steps our schools have been focused on to date this year. Each presentation included opportunities to speak to strengths and areas for growth, connect the growth made with formative assessment data from fall to winter, and identify areas of support and collaboration needs. This effort serves as a mid-year accountability check and helps inform our Cabinet team on areas we need to focus on to support our schools and administration. I think the biggest takeaway from these presentations was that we have a tremendous amount of positives in our school district to celebrate and be proud of. And then on a festive note, I want to recognize the celebrations of Read Across America Week that took place last week. Our elementary schools were full of energy with spirit days, guest readers, and a palpable excitement for literacy. Seeing our students engaged and falling in love with reading is a powerful reminder of the why behind everything we do. I want to thank our media specialists and educators for making it such a memorable week. And last, I want to say I'm truly honored to lead a school district where our shared successes are a testament to the strength of Hood River County School District community. And that concludes my report for this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Newton? Nope? All right, thank you, Bill. All right, any board member reports? I have just a few here. Dave and I both sit on the district bargaining team, and so we've started some pre-work with that, and looking forward to starting the process of bargaining with our with HREA, I think next week or maybe the week after that.
17th.
Yeah, 17th. So appreciate the work that Mark and Bill and Gus have put into that. Secondly, I did get the opportunity to go to some of the forums that were held for the HRV principal hiring, and I just want to really put a thank you out to the hiring committee. It was a fantastic process, and it was a really long day for those guys on that last day especially, but they did a great job and some fantastic conversations. There was a lot of staff that showed up for the staff forum, and some community members and parents. So really thanks to them for engaging in that process, and excited to welcome our new principal. And again, extend our thanks to Jim Donnelly for doing a really good job for us this year, and continuing to keep our kids moving forward. I also want to just mention that the legislative session is over, as Mr. Newton mentioned, and we, had some really great wins we were allowed to, we kept our equalization grant, which I think was really important because it was the will of our voters that got us that, and to not recognize them would have been really bad. So just want to thank everyone who wrote letters and reached out to our legislators and encouraged them not to take that matching funding away. And just, that's a big job, and so we'll dive into what some of the bills mean, and and be able to deal with, what the continuing budget talks as they go on with the state. And then lastly, I also sit on the strategic plan committee, and you'll hear more about that tonight, but also, again, just a great process. A lot of people putting in extra work to make sure that our next 5 years are just along the lines of how we want to serve our students in our community. So that's it. All right. We now will move on. We don't have any student envoys tonight. They are busy, I know. So we'll move on to recognition and good news with Gus Hedberg.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's my honor to be here tonight for recognition and good news, and I'm very excited to be sharing with you our theater and performing arts programs, and our secondary teachers who devote time and energy and passion to this work. So I'd like to invite up some of the representatives who are here tonight. I know we have Joan Rose from Weiss Middle School. Joan, if you could come up and join me up here, that'd be great. And Anders Foster is here from Weiss as well. I don't know if Jennifer's going to be able to make it, but Corey and Bennett may be on their way too. They were just finishing up at Hood River Middle School. They had an event, and so may walk in at any time. So we can give them a big round of applause when they walk in. That'd be fun. I don't think they're here yet, are they? No. Not yet. You cue us, Roland, when they come in, and we'll give them a big round of applause. So, so first of all, I just want to highlight some of the things that our theater arts provide for our students. You know, we often get to recognize our student athletes on a regular basis because those accomplishments are, you know, time-bound, and but we really wanted to take a moment to recognize our theater arts as well, as they play such a big role in our students' lives, and really a big part of a rounded education for our students. So some of the many things that theater arts provide are on this slide here. Essential communication is one of them. So public speaking skills, clarity of expression, teaches empathy, especially, you know, kids taking on different roles in performances, and just fostering that deeper understanding of different walks of life. Collaboration, of course, they have to work hard together. They all play different roles to make everything happen at the end of the day. Teaches resilience. They have to take risks, process feedback from their coaches and teachers. Fosters inclusive spaces, a welcoming space, a place where students can feel belonging. And then last of, again, just the list that's here, it really helps foster leadership and provides that opportunity, that unique opportunity for students in our district. So with that, just a snapshot of approximate numbers that are served on a yearly basis in our schools, 40 to 50 at Weiss Middle School, approximately 80 on a yearly basis at HRMS, and over 100 at HRVHS. This is a list of some of the performances that have happened in the last year or so. If you've had a chance to see any of them, you know that they're wonderful. At Weiss in recent months, or in the last couple of years, they've done The Little Mermaid Jr., Alice in Wonderland, and Mary Poppins. At HRMS, they've done Romeo and Juliet, Beauty and the Beast, James and the Giant Peach. And at HRVHS, just this last year, they've done Mamma Mia and The Mousetrap. I asked for some quotes from some different folks who are a part of these programs, and one of our principals, who might be in the room here, said, he said, as a principal, I love our theater program because it gives students the chance to thrive on stage and discover confidence through performance. It's inspiring to see the relationships they build with their peers and the strong sense of connection it creates with our school community. One of our teachers said, I love working towards a big collaborative art project every year and watching students involved gain a sense of community and belonging through connecting with others over music and art. And the last one here is, my favorite part of being involved with the theater productions is watching the show come together at the end. When the first dress rehearsal happens, you'll see the culmination of all the little details that the students have worked so hard to perfect. It is where all the different departments, from costuming to lights to sound to acting, all get to have their roles put out on display. It is truly a magical moment when there is no hiding. Everybody has a role to play, and it is vital to the success of the show. So again, just a snapshot. You know, if you've been to a high school or middle school performance, it's magical to see those kids up there and having worked so hard and all come together at that special moment. It's really a neat thing that our kids get to participate in. So Joan and Anders, thank you for being here representing the group today. And with that, we always provide an opportunity for our board members to ask any questions. So board members, any questions for our representatives here?
No questions.
Not anything?
Just grateful to have you guys and put all the work.
We have Ben Tell and Corey Elam. Come on up, you guys.
I know how to make an intro.
Just in time for questions. So we were just saying what a special part theater and music coming together plays for our students in our district. So thank you all for all that you do for our students, and we'll give you another big round of applause here in a minute. But first off, any other questions for the group here?
I would say it was wonderful to see the plays together. I haven't seen these, the last one, but it's really neat to see how it all comes together, from lighting, from introduction, from being in the play, and it's just every part does matter, as Gus was saying. So it's really neat to see the play come together.
Absolutely, and it's fun to see the kids grow as they progress, when maybe they're starting out as a middle school or freshman, and then as they get to be a senior, and how much confidence and we have a lot of talented students here, and you guys help to bring those talents out. So that's awesome. Thank you.
So I was a thespian when I was in middle school. I know it's hard to believe, but I can't imagine wrangling 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, or 7th and 8th graders into something that resembles amazing, theater. And so how do you do it?
It's a good question.
You find out the answer, let us know.
I really am appreciative of it, because I did do plays when I was in 8th grade. I did Bye Bye Birdie. And it was, to this day, I can sing the songs, and, it was really a really formative thing for me. So thank you for what you do. It's awesome. And I will say, so I went to the Mousetrap, and I know that the high school's not here, but I went to the Mousetrap, and I had to leave at intermission because the person that I went with needed to leave. And you can't find that play anywhere. So I have no idea how it ends. And nobody will tell you, because they tell you at the beginning of the play not to tell anybody how it ends, because it's still running in London on the West End. It's the longest running play. And so they actually, Jennifer stood up there and said, now, when you go home tonight, do not tell anybody how this play ends. And so I've asked several people, and no one will tell me.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to go to London, obviously.
Magic is truly in the moment.
The magic is truly in the moment.
Yep, gotta be
But
there.
thank you all so much for what you do. It really, you keep kids in school. I also did get to go to the 8th grade step-up day that the high school came and talked about all the different electives that kids get to do. And the enthusiasm when Jennifer came in and spoke, you could feel it, and that's a testament to what you all have done to encourage these kids to start in middle school, to be able to then go to the high school and continue with their performing arts. So, yeah, it's working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, Chrissy, thanks. Yeah, it really, I know it is a labor of love, and you put in so many hours and care so much, and just, again, provide that space for kids after school where they feel accepted and they belong and are working together to achieve this thing. It's really special, so thank you for all that you do. You all join me in a big round of applause. Well, so we're going to try to get a picture with Mr. Newton. We're actually going to see if we can get him up on the big screen. A little theater magic here.
That's awesome.
But I think if I pull off of this,
With the mustache.
if I stop presenting.
Will he still have his mustache?
Okay, so please take a spot over by Mr. Newton there.
Somebody put their hand up, so you're right on his nose like this.
Well, this is unique.
That's awesome.
Thank you all.
I do have a gift from the board, so I'll meet you over here on your way. If you're leaving now, I'll give it to you.
All right. Okay. All right, that's awesome, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to the public comment section of our meeting, and we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 public speakers tonight, so I'm gonna go ahead and read our opening statement, and then I will call you up in the order with which you signed up. The Hood River County School District Board of Directors requests comments be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers will state their name and county of residence for the record. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. While the board does not respond to public comment, following the meeting, the chair, vice chair, and superintendent will together determine the appropriate level response. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations or programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning specific district personnel. If public comment exceeds 30 minutes and speakers are unable to make public comments to the board, please submit your public comment by email to hrcsd.board@hoodriver.k12.or.us, and they will be reviewed by the board chair, vice chair, and superintendent. If the material you are speaking about could be considered inappropriate for certain age groups, please provide the comment in writing or provide notice to ensure adequate time is provided for those in the room to leave. Okay. So I will do your 3 minutes, and I won't start it until you have said your name, so you get your full 3 minutes. And also, just so you know, some of us do take notes, so we might be looking down at our computers, and we are listening to you. All right, so the first person is Hugh Dalby.
Okay.
Say your name and where you, the county with which you live, and then I'll start the timer, and you got 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Hugh Dalby. I'm joined here by Normie Vega Ortega. We're both from Hood River County. Yes, dear HRCSD and community, within this letter, with the utmost respect and conviction, we would like to voice certain concerns as both laborers and educators in one of the most crucial but poorly compensated and underappreciated departments in the district. We present this letter not in an effort to point fingers at individuals within the systems and distributions of the district, but instead to bring to light what we feel is an injustice against our most vulnerable students and the limited staff that seek to serve them. We write to you not just as representatives of our Y East Middle School special ed team, but also members of a small group of special ed instructional assistants across the entire district tasked with navigating our highest needs students. We as a team feel as though there has been a systemic financial devaluation of the classified professionals that work in SPED, and that such a lack of allocation of resources to personnel implies a greater marginalization of our students with disabilities. We seek any kind of direction or route towards raising our wages, not only to foster a culture of professionalism in the SLC, but also to reduce the logistical issues sustained by this systemic failure, such as high turnover, lack of subs, worsened behavior, poorer outcomes, etc. We are professionals working for the future of students who have and will have fewer opportunities in the future within societies and systems like ours that continue to marginalize them. During our time working in this department, we have quickly realized that few people choose this field. Furthermore, we are convinced that we can offer love, care, and a holistic quality education to these children. But with that being said, due to the nature of the conditions in which we work, those of us who work here find ourselves in a liminal position within the entire spectrum of the district, and even the field. We have met the educational requirements to perform the job that very few are willing to do, and have entered this position with minimal training, leaving students who deserve the highest level of support with sometimes unprepared but determined staff. We are not teachers, but we have to perform the duties of licensed staff consistently, as well as find ways to teach these children, which requires a high level of professionalism, nuance, and skill. Most people, including gen ed teachers, don't feel motivated to teach our students with disabilities because of the time and emotional toll this position consistently requires. Given the above and as stated, we respectfully request that you consider making adjustments or reforms to our department in terms of financial compensation. Our team feels as though our wages are so unlivable that career educators simply cannot afford to begin the trajectories of their careers in a place like the Structured Learning Center, rendering the possible employee pool limited. While we believe in the field of SPED is generally undervalued and underappreciated, we have experienced an increased wage shortage in relation to districts directly around us for similar positions. This puts anyone who decides to undertake the difficult task of working with these children in HRCSD immediately below the poverty line. We are also completely unable to be socially mobile within our systems as wages are low. that attending school to gain licensure is nearly impossible even with district tuition reimbursement. The 2.5
All right, thanks very much. Appreciate you coming. Okay, next on our list is Dr. Jessie Harada Nance.
I was also a theater kid, so.
You were what?
I was a theater kid. Okay. My name is Dr. Jessie Harada Nance, and I'm a resident of Cascade Locks in Hood River County. My child is a student at Cascade Locks Elementary. I'm coming to voice my concern with the district's decision to return the principal position at CLES to half principal, half specialist for next year. This plan, along with last year's decision to return CLES to a multi-grade classrooms, returns us to a leadership model used prior to 2020. As a parent, I'm concerned about how this decision will impact the excellence our school has built under Ms. Acosta's amazing leadership. Specifically, I worry about the implications this decision has on the district's ability to provide a supportive and safe learning environment to the students in our building. I'm also concerned that it runs counter to the district's commitment to equitable student growth. This previous admin specialist model was not a great one for the students, staff, or faculty at CLES. Instructional time was impeded because teachers were managing behavioral challenges in the classroom that normally would be managed by an administrator, who was unavailable because they were also providing instructional or intervention support during the day. Children were left without support and instruction, and behavioral management suffered. The impacts of this are clear in the data from that period, which showed our students' academic scores lagging behind their district peers. While I believe that the systems and culture Ms. Acosta has built at CLES are enduring, the fact is that the school cannot continue to prosper without the staff needed to provide social, emotional, and academic support to our children. Our future principal, no matter how capable or educated, will need adequate staffing to maintain the growth and excellence that our children deserve. Without proper staffing, the district will not be able to provide the multi-tiered systems of support that have been crucial in our school's success. Our building needs both academic interventions from fully licensed FTE specialists and social and emotional support from a full-time on-site student support specialist. In a few minutes, the boards will hear about the plans for revision to the strategic plan. You will see that resource stewardship is one part of that plan, but so is the district's commitment to providing a supportive and safe learning environment to all students and ensuring equitable student growth. In deciding to return CLES to this model, I fear that leadership views the values as a hierarchy, and they're willing to sacrifice the gains we have made. I also fear that this sets a dangerous precedent for the entire district. Finally, district officials like to justify these cuts to CLES because they say our kids cost more. Fun fact, our kids also bring in more with the remote school allocation, which significantly closes the cost per student gap between us and the other elementary schools. And it closes even more with every student we enroll. And we have gained 2 students just in the past few months. Please consider this as you make your budget decisions for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. Thanks for coming in. Okay, our next speaker is Amberine Alvey.
My son was denied an opportunity to speak in the place of somebody else, so I'm going to give him a minute of my time. Go ahead and start by introducing yourself, okay? Go ahead.
I am Ash. Wait.
Just go ahead.
We had a principal because we need a principal because to.
You got it. Speak from the heart.
Mom, I can't.
I'm going to go ahead and say mine.
Sounds good.
My name is Amberine Alvey. I'm a parent to this future Jean Valjean in 2nd grade. I'm here to question the decision-making process the district makes when responding to state funding failures that have led to a tradition of disproportionately negatively impacting the Cascade Locks students. By refusing to utilize the offers of our PTO to help negotiate in Salem and instead choosing to unilaterally reveal this decision after the education special session, the district has tarnished the partnership with the Cascade Locks parent community. because we as a community are able and willing to defend our children's education with every legal avenue. So the real question is, why won't you? The entropy from the funding crisis will continue, and we know math well enough to recognize that the continued disintegration of our school's education quality, more families will leave and the school will eventually close. So please consider all future conversations negotiations. This building is a part of Cascade Locks infrastructure, and these decisions that keep pushing towards a closure require an acknowledgement that if and when that happens, the possession of the building must go back to the community and not be district property. If the district chooses to pretend that Cascade Locks Elementary School's underpaid and overworked staff can provide the same education quality as Hood River's while perennially threatening their livelihoods with their passion, I will personally FOIA the district for Hood River Valley High School's graduating performance rate based on elementary school, like I have been politely asking for the past 3 years. Bill. Because you're not actually concerned about the educational impacts of the schools on students. So why even become admins and board members? PERS, Measure 5, 40, and 41 are part of a failed 30-year experiment that forced Oregonians to pay higher income and property taxes that go into a defunct Oregon education model, rather than properly funding local community schools. The district has an obligation to recognize that if the state cannot meet equitable education funding needs, then their legal option is to sue the state before continuing a tradition of providing less education to the kids of Cascade Locks because they have a history of getting away with it. Because if you cannot have the moral courage to do that, at least acknowledge that your financial crisis will worsen when you pigeonhole this parent body of MBAs, PhDs, and community leaders into our only legal options left. In conclusion, which side of the courtroom would you prefer to sit on? Do you want to stand for the rights of children education or be left with defending these decisions in a court of law? Son, you have this one.
We need a principal because when we need
To go to the
her or him, and
Where will the kids go when they can't be in the principal's office?
Thanks for coming, Ash.
It's a safety issue.
Okay. You did good, buddy. Okay, we're gonna call up Jana Arthur now. Poor thing.
Good evening. My name is Jana Arthur, and I am a Hood River County resident and a retired Hood River County School District teacher, spending 25 years teaching at Parkdale Elementary and 8 years at Cascade Locks Elementary. I'm here because I strongly oppose the proposal to transition the Cascade Locks Elementary principal position to half-time teacher and half-time administrator model. I recognize the district's financial constraints, but this specific cut targets the very foundation of the school's stability and safety. I know this because I taught at Cascade Locks for 5 years under this same exact model. It was, quite simply, ineffective and detrimental. In my experience, 3 things happened when the principal was split between these rules. First, student interventions suffered. Principal-led groups were continually interrupted and canceled even. Administrative emergencies don't follow a part-time schedule. Next is what I call the trickle-down burden. When the principal was teaching, the burden of school management fell on teachers and support staff. Specialists and instructional assistants were pulled from their duties to help, which directly disrupted student learning. My special education small groups were often interrupted as my assistance was needed in another capacity in the building. And last, the morale collapsed. During those 5 years, staff morale reached an all-time low. I saw talented teachers ready to transfer or leave the district entirely because the system was broken. Thank goodness when Adrian Acosta came aboard, along with the change in the division of duties of the principal, the school climate began to change positively for both staff and students. One can look at the trajectory of test scores over the last 5 years to see the full impact on the student learning and achievement. And as of today, that's an avid showcase school. A principal needs to be available at a moment's notice. This model doesn't allow for that. This approach is neither fair nor equitable. Please avoid repeating past errors that compromise students' safety and education, as well as staff well-being. Let's not take a step backward. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming in, Jana. Okay, next is Michaela Keller.
My name is Michaela Keller, and I'm a resident of Cascade Locks and in Hood River County. I come before the board tonight with an invitation to look with me through the lens of a mother of a child with special needs. It begins in the fall of 2017 with a neurospicy child entering kindergarten at Cascade Locks Elementary School. Parents are eager to meet more community members and engage in the local school. The first interaction with the administrator is when the child is called into a meeting to discuss a letter that the parents received regarding reading intervention programs. Sounds scary. They have no context. The reading specialist introduces themselves, and the mother is shocked to learn that they are also the school's part-time administrator. Many diagnoses later, they realize that the long and difficult journey of advocacy, learning new laws related to IEPs, public school programming requirements, grade level standards, and intervention services began that day. They do not receive support from the administrator. Veteran staff work and guide them on their way with their young family towards resources and tools, but they too lack the support and resources they needed to do their jobs. As a result, your child fails. You go before the school board and you ask for equity and advocate for all students to have their individualized needs met. To your great relief, the board responds assertively and asks for new systems to be set up to support a new administrator with adequate teaching and support staff. What an amazing 180 you witness. Your heart is full and you are proud. Imagine your shock when you learn that budget cuts will widely, disproportionately impact your child compared to other district schools. You wonder how this could be because the school district's strategic plan values equitable student learning and growth. This is something you've witnessed firsthand. You can't reconcile with the notion that the board's values of being committed to and supporting staff would drive a change that would require your local teachers to work harder with less. You wonder how your child will be impacted by these changes and that you know have failed before. You wonder what's changed, why the district believed that doing the same thing again will have a different outcome. You wonder why it feels like your child isn't worthy of the same academic and socio-emotional resources and tools that other students receive. You feel gutted. You feel like no one is listening to you. And you wonder, how will my child succeed?
Thanks, Michaela, for coming. Our next speaker is Ann Cole.
Ann Cole, Hood River County. Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. My name is Ann Cole, and I am the program coordinator for our school district's Early Intervention, Early Childhood Special Education program. I'm here today to talk to you about Pine Grove School, and that's where we are located. Mr. Newton recently met with Ann Carlos, my supervisor, and me to discuss closing Pine Grove School next year and moving us to Mid Valley Elementary School. He said the district is looking at all facilities and it has too many properties. He said that by moving us to Mid Valley and closing Pine Grove School, the district would save $138,000. We asked him, what are the plans for the school? Can you sell the property? He said there were no plans and he didn't know if the property could be sold. It is my understanding that the long-range facility plan is going to be presented this June and that no changes are going to happen until June 2027. I would like Pine Grove School and our program to be treated like every other program and school in this district. I would ask that you honor your word and not make any changes until everything has been considered. There needs to be a comprehensive plan, Facts need to be determined, questions need to be answered, and there simply is not enough time for all of this to happen this school year. $138,000 is approximately 0.2% of the general fund budget. I have questions. How did the district come up with this amount? What does this amount include? How much will it cost to leave the school empty? How much will it cost to move us and retrofit a space for us? We have invested approximately $800,000 of EIECSE funds into the school in the last 4 years. What happens with that investment? I have been told by many community members that Pine Grove School property was given to the school district under the condition that the district could keep the property as long as there are children at the school. Members of our community still believe this to be the case. This was why our program moved to Pine Grove School from Frankton School approximately 14 years ago. So once again, can the property be vacant? Can it be sold? What are the facts? I'd like to end with some suggestions on how we can increase revenue at Pine Grove School. There is a private preschool and a private childcare that rent space from the district. Who else could rent space from us and be a good partner? Could the district have a preschool promise preschool at our school? How can we grow more early childhood programs at our school? All of these ideas could generate more revenue for the district and keep our school open for the youngest and the most needy children of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks for coming in. Okay, and our last speaker is, and excuse me if I say it wrong, Dan Beyer. Beyer? Beyer. Yeah. Gotcha.
Greetings, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Dan Bear. I actually live across the river in Klickitat County. However, I work for the Hood River County School District. I'm one of the early intervention speech therapists who works out of Pine Grove. I'm here to talk about the proposed $138,000 budget saving cost of closing Pine Grove campus in this year's budget cycle. We were actually supposed to be at Pine Grove tonight. Yeah. What do we know? We know that this would displace a preschool that operates year-round, impacting 39 preschool spots in the Hood River County. We've also lost 26 preschool promise spots in Hood River County this year already. So we know this would displace a year-round childcare of 10 to 15 families approximately. This would trigger the need to relocate early intervention, early childhood special ed, which we serve about 120 to 130 families district-wide per year, transitioning around 45 kids to kindergarten, which if you're doing the math, that's like what, almost 3 kindergartens we transition. We know that we need adequate space, and that would need to be found within the district. We need office space for administrative assistants. We need, and to welcome our families and infants of toddlers. We need adequate desk space for 9 professionals. We need material space and workspace for 3 instructional assistants. We need 2 individual therapy evaluation spaces, 2 classroom spaces, 1 motor room space, access to gym space for community playgroup, meeting space for confidential meetings. And I only give you this list because the proposal is for us to move to Mid-Valley to the vacant, or one of the gymnasiums. So how do we put all of that in there? I'm not really sure, and I haven't heard anything about that. We know the current proposed space does not match, and we also do know that it is important to think about the budget, and the district is really considering eliminating properties. What we don't know what the long-range facilities planning committee has done because their recommendations aren't out yet. We don't know what the district's intention is to sell properties that do not currently have facilities, and those would be on Rand Road and May Street. And, I mean, the value is probably upwards to $10 million. We don't know if the district can officially sell Pine Grove. We don't know the timeline, and these programs we're talking about are year-round programs, meaning that would impact summer services for all programs. We don't know where the location will be. We don't know the cost of the location, and we don't know the district's plan for taking our equipment, which includes an actual relocation of a playground because that was purchased with EIECSE funds to a different locations. So based on what we know and don't know, I would strongly suggest the school board look closely at some of the budget items being proposed. Currently, I would also ask to see the long-range planning recommendations and how they came up with some of them, the information, especially around Pine Grove. I would like to see more information, plans, and budgets for what moving Pine Grove would actually look like.
Thank you so much,
for-
Dan.
Thanks,
Appreciate you coming
guys.
in.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think I got everybody. Yes? All right, this will then close the public comment part of our meeting. And again, thank you so much for everyone coming in. And we will, the board leadership and superintendent will talk and get back to everybody. So appreciate you coming in on this rainy, rainy night. All right, we are moving on then to consolidated action. And if everyone had an opportunity to look over those items, I would take a motion for that.
I move to approve the consolidated action as presented.
I second.
Okay, so motion by Brandy and second by Dave. Any comments or questions about that? All right, hearing none, we'll start with you, Monica, for a vote.
Aye.
Brandy?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so that passes unanimously. All right, thank you very much. Next, we're going to move on to reports and discussions. We are going to start with a budget report update from Mark DeMoss and Mr. Newton.
All right, well, while Mark is getting set up here and presenting the slide deck, I just want to start by saying that we are going to provide an update on our budget as well as reductions and a path toward the 2026-27 proposed budget. And I also want to share that as we enter the public phase of our budget development, I want to emphasize that this is not a once-a-year event for our leadership team. We are monitoring our fiscal health, evaluating our program effectiveness, and analyzing student data all year long to ensure every dollar is working as hard as it can for our kids. I want to remind everyone that our Finance Advisory Committee meetings that occur monthly are live streamed and recorded, posted on our website, also shared in our community newsletters, with the idea that when we get to this point of the year where we are talking about budget reductions, it shouldn't come as a surprise. Tonight is about moving our internal evaluations regarding proposed budget reductions into the public square, providing the transparency our community deserves as we shape the future of our schools. I also want to acknowledge everyone who shared public comment tonight. I recognize that budget reductions are hard, they hit home, and I just do want to say I appreciate everyone speaking up tonight regarding their concerns. And I'm sorry that I can't be there in person to acknowledge you personally, okay? So while we work within our local means, our focus remains on advocating at the state level for adequate and stable funding for public education. I know we had several board and community members who advocated during the short legislative session to avoid budget reductions. I want to also acknowledge those who advocated on behalf of our school district, that the efforts truly made a difference. And I will continue to emphasize the importance of continuing to advocate for improved funding for public education in our state. While I understand there will be frustrations at the local level regarding budget, it truly is important that we recognize that our budget is dependent on how public schools are funded at the state level. There is no denying that these conversations are hard, really hard. Budgeting during a transition period requires us to make difficult choices, but it also provides a unique opportunity. It pushes us to think differently and look creatively at things we've done the same way for years. It is often through these challenging stretches that we find our most creative ideas. By looking through a new lens, we are discovering ways to do things even better than before, finding efficiencies that actually lead to better instructional outcomes and a stronger support system for our staff. So tonight you're going to see a budget that is both fiscally prudent yet focused on continuously improving student outcomes for all students. It acknowledges our current realities while refusing to compromise on our commitment to excellence.
Good evening. The place to start any budget is talk about the current fiscal standing of the district. We cover a lot of this in our FAC reports and in our monthly financial reports, so I'm not going to go into extensive detail on that. As Bill highlighted in his opening remarks, the legislature, in terms of state school funding, received positive news. If you recall the Venn diagram of all the big budget issues we were facing, it kind of knocks 2.5 of them out and makes them more certain. And so as a result, in keeping with our philosophy that we've had of looking ahead, especially towards PERS adjustments that are coming up in the start of the next biennium, the challenge was to basically address a $2.2 million general fund gap between projected costs in the 27-28 year. And we had selected the methodology of spreading those out over 2 years to lessen the impact on the organization. The primary drivers of that remain the remainder of the PERS liability, specifically the expiration of the PERS side account. There's detail on that in some of the recent FAC meetings in case anyone wants additional detail. And that remains between both increases in rates as well as the one-time cash flow impact related to the mistiming of the expiration of the side account and the debt service remains really the biggest driver. We also, at the same time, are contending with enrollment trends. We realize that over the past many years, the district, similar to the state, has averaged about a 0.6% decline in enrollment. That rate increased this year, and as a result, the state school fund projection for next year was a little bit lower than what we expected, and so that's changed some of our thinking, and so that's included in our proposal. In terms of operational inflation, we recognize that there's rising costs in transportation facilities, special ed services, and all these run counter to the general enrollment decline. And so our goal between the next 2 years is essentially to move from crisis management in terms of budget to a structural sustainability long-term.
So this slide just shares with everyone what our enrollment trends are. This is based on a flow analytics projection that we asked for as a part of our long-range facilities planning. And so as you can see, it dates back to 2013-14, and it projects all the way forward to 2034-35. And you can just kind of see, back in 2021, we were at 4,057 students. I think that was almost our high point. And then, where our current enrollment is, it's actually at 3,680 at this time. And so we're actually below the projected number for 2025-26 at this point in time. And so it's just something that we are aware of, and we've been speaking to the board about in our community about the impact with declining enrollment and how that is going to impact funding for our school district. And with that means that we need to make adjustments from year to year in order to be able to get at these declining enrollments.
This slide regarding our budget philosophy is essentially the same slide I've presented many months and many times over the last 2 years. It still governs what we're attempting to do. We've added some pieces to it. We acknowledge the fact that in both prior years and then considering the current PERS liabilities, that we need to adjust the budget, the district's expenditures and revenues to match and to not consume any of our fund balance. And in addition to looking at how we manage our budgeting buffer so that we have staffing contingencies, reserves, targeted reserves, and things like that going into future years. As Bill talked about, we have to contend with long-term enrollment changes, and tonight you'll see some data on that and how it specifically affects next year. And then in addition is to look at these long-term cost changes and remember that like the special education cost increasing is the direct result of our safety and compliance data. And so when we look at different programs, transportation, food, maintenance, federal funding levels aren't keeping up with the costs and the expenses to run those programs. And so those put a drag on to the overall expenditure budgeting for the district. Our goal is to obviously meet all of these challenges and look at a sustainable future for the district.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about commitment to student support and safety. So the first couple of bullets there where we are saying we need to improve student support and invest in specialized personnel to meet rising special education needs. And then again, on the second bullet, prioritizing resources in high impact areas to protect the core student experience. We recognize that we have students rising special education needs in our school district. And because of that, we actually need to dedicate more resources to that. And so recently, this fall, Kelly Running, our Director of Special Education, participated in an audit with ODE. And from those findings, it was indicative to us that we need to do a better job with compliance when it comes to standards and laws related around IDEA. And so, those are some investments that we need to put money towards. We also, when it comes to operational stability, we need to address rising costs with nutrition, facilities, transportation, in order to ensure our buildings remain safe and that students remain well fed and ready to learn. And I'll speak about that a little bit more on the next slide. And then, as Mark has shared many times, a PERS reserve. So we need to proactively set aside funds to meet upcoming pension obligations. Okay, so for special education and compliance, what we are proposing is to add a licensed staff to support students and providing additional guidance for critical paperwork and processes. So this person would work directly with our special education staff, provide training, ensure compliance with our paperwork, and also work with our administrators, because our administrators play a critical role when attending our IEP meetings and so forth. We also need to invest in our facilities and nutrition services. So, for example, with nutrition services, we know that we have the community eligibility provision. But despite that provision, despite that funding from the state and the feds, we are still about $100,000 short. And so we need to fill that gap in order to continue to provide free meals for breakfast and lunch for all of our students. And then the other areas is like with transportation, with facilities, with custodial and maintenance. Over the past many years, we've had inflation cause supplies to rise, yet we haven't increased funding at those levels at all. And we need to start doing that to ensure that they are able to maintain our equipment so we can continue to use it and not have breakdowns and so forth. So under optimizing instructional models, so we want to refine our student support, and that has to do with implementing classroom integrated models that provide immediate tailored help to students with their core learning environment. Really, this has to do with interventions. So we recognize in some of our interventions, we are actually seeing some really good outcomes. And I'll talk about like integrated ELD. Since we've moved to that model, we've seen growth with the number of students and percentage of students that are becoming proficient with English language. And so we feel like we can learn from that experience and actually improve our intervention modeling while also coming up with some savings moving forward. I've already talked a little bit about investing in staff expertise. And so with our special education staff, and then strategic efficiency, so combining administrative roles and optimizing building capacity to protect classroom funding. And I'll speak to that a little bit more on the next slide. So under operational and administrative efficiency, so Cascade Locks Elementary moving towards aligning and administrative support with enrollment. And so this means moving from a full-time administrator to a 0.55 FTE administrator and a 0.45 specialized teacher. And as far as how that is exactly going to look, it's going to take a little bit until we can actually go through the hiring process and identify the endorsements and licensure of the person that we want to be the principal, and then how that will connect with the needs of the school. And so that's more to come, but we do feel that with 70 students at Cascade Locks, that a 0.55 FTE administrator can meet the needs of the students at Cascade Locks. When it comes to EI and ECSE, relocating from Pine Grove to Mid-Valley Elementary. So as a result of decreasing enrollment at Mid-Valley, where at one time they were over 500 students, we are now at 350 students enrolled. And because of that, we do have space at Mid-Valley Elementary. In addition to that, we also recognize Pine Grove, with the age of the school, there are costs that are involved with maintenance and facilities upgrades. And because of that, we are looking to move the program to Mid-Valley Elementary, where we can still continue to provide the same level of support for our families for ECSD. And then when it comes to technology and infrastructure, we need to reduce discretionary spending for technology, hardware, and software refreshes. So what that means, though, is Todd Hillstead and the tech team, they have discretionary money that is used on a yearly basis to do refresh with our laptops, with our iPads, and all technology. And when we make cuts like this, it does mean that the life of those machines need to be extended further down the road. And so there's always, a negative aside to that, but we feel like in these times that we need to actually do this cut. And then with instructional realignment, so evaluating and evolving current models to improve instructional practices while maintaining commitment to student outcomes that is related to interventions that we provide. And then thoughtful staffing adjustments. So using retirements and resignations to align our staff size with student enrollment numbers. And as we know, for the past couple of weeks, we have incentivized people coming forward early in order to be able to resign or retire, which allows our school district and our human resources department to have a pretty good picture as far as who is leaving the school district. So as we are going through reductions, we can make sure that we are doing our best to fill these needs through attrition. And so we really appreciate those people coming forward and sharing us ahead of time, so we're not finding out in June when it's too late.
In terms of then how some of these proposals line out into the sort of the actual details that are going to drive our budget for this next year, we provided basically two columns here. There's fixed obligations, which is the items that, based on the calculations that we have, remember that what we've essentially started doing this year is budgeting like we do, employee by employee, benefit by benefit, cost by cost for both 26-27 as well as 27-28, to give us a better idea of how that current service level cost escalates not only next year but the following year. That ends up with a $2,035,000 projected cost increase just related to the current service level projection as it currently sits. With reductions in FTE based on enrollment changes and current class sizes, no adjustment to those class sizes, it is anticipated that the full-time employee reduction will be $950,000 in those positions that will be eliminated as a result of declining enrollment, which also then reduces the demand in the classroom. Concurrent with that, our goal in 26-27 is to create a $500,000 per site account reserve that will roll forward to the next year and be consumed in the next year when the remaining PERS obligations for the site account expire. That should allow us to achieve a budget that is revenue and expense neutral, which is our goal over that time period. On the right-hand side, where we talk about strategic investment layers, these are the areas that Bill had highlighted in terms of investments in certain programs, trying to make reductions based on operational efficiencies. And mind you, some of these are also looking very far ahead related to facility costs that won't have to be spent down the line when they come due. And one of the things that we just always have to keep in mind, Long Range Facility certainly has looked at it, is a building that's a building, eventually you got to replace the roof. Eventually you got to do HVAC, boiler work, things like that. And so buildings are not cost-free, even if you don't pay rent. I think also it's important to note that when we look at the proposed sort of reduction level of $1.1 million for next year, we face this budget year a $4 million reduction. $2.5 million of that being PERS and $1.5 million of that being simply to offset the revenue and expense gap that had been generated over the course of several years at that time. And so by comparison, these changes are not as globally significant. However, we recognize, certainly as a management team, the superintendent on down through the cabinet, that all of the reductions impact people on a very personal level. And we hear that feedback, we understand what it is. One of the things to just realize, and I will say, I've been in private industry, I've been with private equity, I've been doing turnaround for a lot of years. This team that you have is exceptional in that it's not coming in from somewhere else. These people are personally vested in this district. And so when people talk about we need to raise costs somewhere, they're keenly aware of where the reductions come from in other places. Not only do they know the individuals' names, they know the students they're teaching. They know the classroom that these people are in, probably because they taught in that classroom. They know what it sounds like, they know what it smells like, they know everything about it. And so all of these proposals, we have vetted, we have discussed, we continue to discuss to come up with the best solution possible. And so I will say, coming from an outside, non-educator viewpoint, that I am proud of the work that this team has begun doing and will continue to do through the completion of this budget.
Thanks, Mark. So despite the fact that we are talking about budget reductions tonight, I think it is really important that we continue to focus also on the successes in our school district. Graduation trends is always a key indicator that we point to, and it's important because it's really important that we get our students across the finish line. And as you can see, as we've shared, we've seen that upward trend and continuing to outpace the state average, which we are really proud about. But there are other things too, such as, CTE programming, which we heard about, at our last board work session a couple of weeks ago, and the offerings that we provide at the high school, which are so impressive. The efforts to really make sure that our students are on track at the 9th grade. The dual credit course offerings that we offer for all of our students. Over 70% of our students who graduated last year received at least one dual credit offering, which is pretty darn impressive. AVID, our focus on AVID and how it has elevated student outcomes, and that's K-12. Our increases with English language proficiency, our efforts around dual language at the elementary, middle, and high school, the growth that we have seen with reading proficiency, kindergarten through 5th grade. And then I would also just want to say a huge shout out to all of our groups that do a lot of support and advocacy. And I'm talking about like our PTOs, our Ed Foundation, our after school programming, such as Champions, who provides daycare, Excel, our smart readers. There are so many positives that occur in the school district. And so it's really important that despite the fact that we are talking about budget reductions again, which is something that, we get into a practice of doing from year to year, not only in this school district, but statewide, it is really important that despite these, we are finding a lot of successes in our school district.
So as we look ahead, to use a sports analogy, when do we stop playing defense and get to play offense? It's more fun. We have to look ahead at when the pressures that are on the district might begin to relax. We do know in terms of the PERS pension that at the expiration of the 27-28 year, when the debt service commitments have been paid off in terms of the per side accounts, that the district will have absorbed an additional $3.6 million a year in annual pension costs. I cannot overstate the significance of that number relative to a $66 million general fund budget. The current advisory rates, which is good, don't anticipate another increase to the state school pool rate, which is what we'll be in at the expiration of a side account. And that chart that I'm showing in the bottom right-hand corner is essentially what those advisory rates show. In addition, the PERS unfunded liability, which has hovered and increased over several years from $28 to $29 billion. This last biennium held constant, and returns last year in terms of the PERS fund were 9.7%, which is ahead of the projected PERS investment rate. And so it is cautiously optimistic and hopeful that the types of increases and types of pressure we've seen over the last, essentially now what will end up being 3 years, will finally begin to abate. Secondly, it was not too many months ago that we were very concerned about this year's school funding and its impact. In addition, the legislature has looked, decided not to cut education. We don't know what we don't know, which is what the 27-29 biennium increase will look like. If it is an average size increase, then 27-28 should absorb the remaining PERS cost. And after that point, depending upon a lot of unknowns related to state school funding, you'll at least have the main drivers that are driving what's going on now certainly relax. And with that, will allow us, hopefully, to begin to carve out some extra investment money for many of the programs. We're going to talk tonight about the strategic plan. And as we talk about that, it's important to realize that a couple years down the road seems like a long time, but really when you're talking about a 5-year strategic plan, it's simply the beginning of that plan as you begin to really put your details together and your tasks together of how you're going to achieve those objectives. And so it may align quite nicely in terms of timing with the implementation of those plans and what we need to invest in.
Okay, so I want to speak about community input. I just want to share my appreciation for those who came to the staff or community input sessions. It's always an opportunity to be able to give an update on where we are at with our budget. So I appreciate Mark supporting that, Steph Hoppy, our communications director, supporting those efforts. And then I also appreciate being able to listen to perspectives from our staff and community in order to be able to hear their experiences as we are making these decisions. And then just last here that, we are going to continue to follow our policies, processes, and committee efforts as we develop and implement our budget, which I'll speak to on this next slide here. Okay, so we have coming up, after this board meeting, it will be on April 8th. We have our next school board meeting in which we'll do another budget update and continue to keep our community informed. Then we also have our budget committee meetings on April 28th and May 5th. And as I've shared before, we are going to host both of those meetings. In the past, we would only host one with the option of hosting the second due to feedback that it felt rushed, not an opportunity to be able to, consider the proposals that are shared, to ask thoughtful questions and so forth. We are going to ensure that we do offer that second May 5th meeting. And then after that, then we will move to June, in which we will bring the proposed budget to the board for approval for the 2026-27 budget. Okay. And I just want to remind everyone, we do have resources available. We have our, on our district website, you can go to the business department, you can check out the financial reviews, you can check out the budget, as well as in our community newsletters, there is information related to our FACs. There is also our recorded live streams from those finance advisory committee meetings as well on our district website. And then I just want to close by saying I want to acknowledge that budget reductions are really hard, knowing the impact they have on our students, families, staff, and our schools. And it's important to share that these proposed budget reductions are our best efforts to find solutions that fall within our current means. Maintaining a strong presence at the state level is really important. We are committed to advocating for a sustainable funding model, one that doesn't just meet our students' basic requirements, but anticipates and adapts to their changing expectations and success, improving and enhancing the students' experience in our schools. I want to express our deepest gratitude to our community, from the passage of the local option levy to the daily support of our partners, such as what I've already mentioned, like our Ed Foundation, our PTOs, our volunteers, Parks and Rec, the Hood River Youth Alliance. All of these groups help make excellence possible, and we are only able to protect these essential student experiences because this community in Hood River has consistently said that our children are worth the investment. And that concludes our report.
Great. Thank you both. Any questions for Mark or Bill? A lot of information. I appreciate you guys putting this out there early. I know that there's still a lot of information that has to be gathered. There's a lot of thought processes still, but it is important for the community to just start to hear some of these proposals and so that we end up having a good process that has a lot of input from a lot of different people. So thanks for starting that process earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I also do want to say, I very much appreciate what you've done, Mark, by looking forward, because I think that, you know, when you get into budget cuts, which, like you said, we've been in for many years now, it always feels like you're playing defense, and you can't always play defense, because we have kids right now in our schools that need services. And so we really need to create a system that has consistency throughout it. And I think the team has gone a long way to getting us to that point, so.
I think to second that, to realize that we had a $4 million budget cut, but when you hear some of these SIP reviews, you hear some of these strategic plan ideas, you realize that the work very much continues, and the district absolutely continues to achieve results.
Yeah, which is great. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you so much, appreciate it. All right, so we are gonna move on to the strategic plan update, and I think it's both Steph Hoppy and Amy McConnell. Yeah?
Just that.
Oh,
I mean, I can come, sit well support. I'll ask for your help later.
all right, never mind, just
Next.
All right. Good evening, Stephanie Hopty, Director of Communications. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm going to provide an update on our strategic planning process. So this is kind of a good segue from budget into our strategic planning update. While the budget defines our means, the strategic plan defines our future direction. Strategic planning is a really exciting time for school districts when they're moving through that process. And for us and for other school districts, really for us, even in times of these limited resources, I can say confidently that our school district has clarity of purpose. We developed the current plan at the height of the COVID pandemic, entirely virtual, doing Google Meets, and all those things. And as a school district, we're showing once again that our school district is focused, it's resilient, and again, we're focused on ensuring that every dollar is transformed into the excellence that our students deserve. So before I jump into the agenda, I'm going to ask if you guys could just save questions and comments to the end, and then I'm going to invite some of our executive team to help answer some of the questions that you might have on the draft goals and objectives. All right. All right, so we have a pretty focused update to share. We're going to show you where we're at in the process. We've been working hard behind the scenes, and now we want to ensure that you're supportive of the direction that we're heading. Your feedback tonight will kind of give us the green light to move on to the next phase. We'll talk a little bit about our plan development, some of the key activities and timeline. We'll look at our proposed core values, and then again, we'll look at our proposed draft goals and objectives. Once you've confirmed thumbs up, looks good, our next step is to get pretty granular, and we'll take your feedback, make refinements to those goals and objectives, and then we're gonna roll our sleeves up and start building out the action items, which is the real fun part. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but that's really where we talk about the how. So we kind of define the what, where we're going, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to get there. Okay? So our process has been really intentional. We've learned a lot through the implementation of our current plan. So we're taking lessons that we've learned from the current plan to ensure that this new roadmap that we're developing is more dynamic, more resilient. And again, even with the challenge of limited resources, limited time, I feel really good about the work that we've done. Every minute we've had together, we've been, productive and really action-oriented. It's been productive and focused. I just want to point out the Venn diagram here. This is something that we didn't necessarily lean on in the first, this current plan, but it's been something we've looked at every meeting, every chance we have, just to remind ourselves that because we have limited resources, really we want to make sure that we're we're selecting what we choose to include in the plan really carefully. There needs to be, first, community input and excitement around it and enthusiasm. It needs to be supported by research and best practice. And then again, we need to have the resources to move with it, to accomplish it. So where those three overlap, that's what we're like, yeah, let's go for that. So we look at this regularly. This just gives you, again, I think we shared this in the October 8th work session with you all, but just a reminder, we started this work in the fall where we designed the process. The fall and into winter, we gathered information, researched, conducted some digital surveys, had some in-person forums, and then really the past couple of months has been working at the committee level and the administrative team level to develop the draft goals and objectives. And that leads us here to tonight. I'm going to speak, I put these on the slide just generally, but I want to speak a little bit about each of them just to give a little bit more context and kind of just explain how we got here. We formed a strategic plan development committee. Again, with the current plan, we had a pretty small group that developed that. And one thing that we knew from the beginning as we designed this process was we wanted to make sure that the people who are going to be implementing the plan had more time to sit down and actually like look at the input, look at the research, and write it together. So that committee is a little bit larger than it was this last time. And we've also been spending a lot of, or spending more time with our administrative team on looking at the input, the research, and writing this together. So what we've been doing is kind of rotating back and forth with meetings between the committee and our administrative team. Again, we don't have a lot of time because, we're busy days. And so, but we take every minute seriously and carefully. And so those two groups have been really important for bringing this work together. Again, comprehensive research. We've been using our directors and leads of some of these areas who have expertise. They know these areas really well. They've been bringing in research and again, looking at what the community input is and seeing where there's overlap. So that's been important to us this round. I already spoke a little bit about community engagement. We had great participation from students this time. We had meetings with middle schools, both middle schools. We had some really awesome conversations with middle school students. We had several in-person meetings at the high school. We met at Hood River Options Academy with some secondary students. And it was just probably been one of my favorite parts of the process was meeting with our students and hearing all their great ideas. And again, we had forums with our staff and our families, and then we took all of that and we analyzed it and developed our draft goals, which I'm going to get into next. Before I get into those draft goals and objectives, I just want to explain a little bit about how we developed the core values. So up here, you'll see our current core values on the left. There are 5 of them. So we have 5 core values and 7 strategic goals. And every one of those goals has like anywhere between 15 and a million action items. And one thing that we talked about as a committee and as an administrative team is looking at the state's pillars. They call them their pillars. They're their core values. So you'll see those in the middle. And they also have 5. And as you look down the list, you're like, oh, those kind of look similar to our current core values. And so then we decided to take our current core values, look at the state's pillars, and modify our core values to align well with the state's pillars. The state sets up areas based on these pillars, so alignment makes a lot of sense. However, we didn't want to just use the state pillars because we want to use our community input. We want to make sure that they're authentic to our community. So that's how we came up with those proposed core values. So again, they align well with the state's pillars, but again, they're areas that we found were important to our community to use as the foundation of our planning. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide here and show you those proposed core values. Another change that we discussed as a committee, again, changing from this current plan moving forward, was we have 5 core values, we have 7 strategic goals, and then we have all these action items. To keep it really clear for our team and for our community, we wanted to write a goal per core value. So that's what you're going to see is each core value has a goal and a set of objectives that support it. Okay, so you're gonna see here some I'm gonna just read the goal and then let you read the objectives, and you have them in front of you as well, and then you can ask questions about those. Before I do that though, I just wanna kind of focus on, there's a couple of, let's see. Okay, so one thing I wanted to make sure was clear here is when we were developing these goals and objectives was we wanted to make sure that they were broad enough that any school, department, or program could see themselves in it. That's some of the feedback we've gotten from our current plan is some people are like, I don't, like, that seems really narrow, and I don't see myself, like, how am I supposed to help the school with that, school district with that? And so that's one of the things that we looked at as we wrote these is just making sure that, of course, you want it to be clear and specific enough that there's a focus, but also making sure that each school, each department, each program could look at this and be like, okay, I know how I could help achieve this area. Okay? All right, so here we go. Our first core value, equitable student learning and growth. Prepare every student for success in their chosen path through equitable access to quality learning. And then the few areas underneath this, the objectives that'll help us meet that goal. High expectations instruction, future-ready pathways, responsive multi-tiered supports, and systemic quality and compliance. Supportive and safe learning environment. Uphold high standards for safe and welcoming environments that prioritize the well-being and belonging of every student. Unified safety communications, operational standards of care, integrated behavioral health. Strong family and community partnerships. Strengthen family and community partnerships to work together in support of student learning. Information exchange, volunteer mobilization, inclusive school environment, and strategic community alignment. Resource stewardship. Allocate district resources efficiently and transparently to ensure every student has the tools and facilities they need to succeed. High-performance data systems, future-focused facility planning, long-term fiscal accountability. And lastly, equip a diverse workforce to deliver excellent instruction and build meaningful connections with students. High-yield strategic focus, role-specific professional development, seamless student transitions, talent recruitment, and retention. So as our group developed those, we asked ourselves, are these goals ambitious yet realistic? Because that's the point of a strategic plan. It should stretch you. We should be reaching. Are they clear destinations rather than tasks? Again, right now we're not going granular. We're just trying to think big. We feel confident that this plan hits that sweet spot of being bold enough to inspire and practical enough to achieve. So with that, if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to try to answer them, and then my team here can also chime in. And then after that, we'll share a little bit about our next steps. Okay?
So you guys, basically, our strategic plan is what will guide our district for 5 years. It's what we put our money towards in our budget. It's what we hire people around doing. It's what we, it's really how we want to have kids succeed over the next 5 years. Like, that's the main goal. So really for us, because that is really our job, is to kind of help have those guidelines done. We hire a superintendent, we have the guidelines done, we do policy, but really like, that's it. So this is our opportunity to kind of guide what happens without then during those 5 years, you know, having our fingers in the mix. So it's really important that as a board, we look at this, and I know that, you know, if you have questions tonight, great, and then you can go back and look at it even closer over the next week, and then give any feedback to staff and to Bill. So just take a minute if you have any questions kind of off the cuff, but then, yeah, go for it. But just to kind of clarify like what we're doing. Does that
Yep.
sound right?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Anybody have any okay. So our, yeah, again, as Chrissy said, so we want the thumbs up from you guys because we're going to keep moving. Like, we're going to get granular, start building out the action items. We had so many ideas, hundreds of ideas that we gathered, and we're really excited to get in to those and start really developing that final part of the plan. One thing I didn't mention, but I'll mention it now because it's going to be, there'll be another round of this. We had our, we worked with our school principals, and they met with educators and support staff at their schools for a small group, and they reviewed this and gave feedback. We took that and modified it, and that's what you're seeing. So each of our schools, yeah, kind of looked really closely with a small group to give some really great feedback. And we also had, Bill shared a list of community partners, and we had this room full of community partners who did the same thing. They went through the goals, the objectives, and they gave us feedback. And we're talking, you know, again, busy professionals. We had the county administrator, the city administrator, county health, county law enforcement, one community health, like the list go, you know, education foundation, PTO reps, a full room giving us feedback on it. So just can't recognize enough our amazing community for helping in that way. And then again, the educator leaders who took, you know, volunteered their time to look at this. So we'll do that again as we develop the action items and get feedback. And then, yeah, we'll bring it to you guys in June to look at it.
Can I just say, I appreciate all the effort and time that you guys have all put into this, but also really engaging the community and the staff too, so that they feel, I think there'll be more buy-in, right, from staff if they're like, we got to be part of this process. You took our input and put it into some of these goals and objectives and things, and I think that's really important. So I appreciate that, because as you said, it's a much larger group, so more input, more ideas. I think that's great.
Thanks. Thank you.
I like the revision that you guys have come up with regards to the resource stewardship.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, it particularly hits home in this meeting that we're having this evening, you know, which, you know, thank you, Mark, and I know it's heartfelt, like every administrator in our district is struggling with what we're facing right now, but looking forward, you know, using data, looking at future facility planning and long-term fiscal accountability. Like as Mark said, when we get to the offensive part of things, it's going to be amazing when we can reallocate money that we've been fiscally responsible with, can be pushed back into our system. We're going to see great things. So like what I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your efforts.
I'm going to just point out a few that I just particularly like. So, you know, I think we did do the last one right during COVID, and that was just such a funky time. And so I do appreciate that high expectation instruction, because I think we're you know, we're past that. We know there are lingering effects, but we also have to move into an area of expectation of high quality instruction and to have our students show us that they can do it. So I do appreciate that call out of, here we go, let's get there. I also do, though, you know, I'm multi-tiered support has been something that we have really worked on, and I appreciate too, because we do have such a wide variety of learner in our district, and we just have to reach everybody. So seeing both of those sides. with supportive and safe learning, I think, again, that behavioral health, it just is so important to actually call out because it is such a big part of who our students are. We cannot teach students without recognizing where they are coming from. So specifically to have that in there is really, really important. Also, I know that we've worked really hard on our communications, and I so appreciate what you and Todd, Steph, and your teams have done to acknowledge that our communications have to be good, and they can't be here and here and here and here and here, and we just really need to be able to reach everybody. I know you spend a lot of time on those. Strong family and community partnerships. On this one, the volunteer mobilization, I think that we really took a hit after COVID of having, we pulled people out of our schools because we had to, and we just haven't had them back. And I think that we just need to teach people how to volunteer in our schools again because it makes such a difference. Bill called out people. I see it all the time, and it really, and we need to do it well, and people want to help us. We have a fantastic community, and so really engaging people and calling out that specifically is fantastic. And then with the resource stewardship, Dave said it better than I ever could, so I'm going to leave it at that. And also, and the committed and supported staff, the thing that I really, really like about this is that seamless student transition, because I think that that's something that we have struggled with, is really seeing our students all the way through the process and making sure that when they leave fifth grade, that sixth grade transition is building on it, and that then when they would leave eighth grade, they're building on it. And so just that engagement over the whole span and to call it out to make sure that we are doing that building alignment is great. And so, yeah, thank you. I know I have been a part of this process, and so I've looked at these for a long time, but I really like where it landed, and I appreciate the team.
Thank you. Okay, well, yeah, if you have any thoughts, suggestions, you can always email or call. Okay? Okay.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you. All right, now Amy gets to come up. And Justin, are you coming up as well? Yeah. And Sarah, fantastic. To talk about Senate Bill 141, the accountability report, and sort of how that's gonna affect our district.
All right. Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm excited to be here tonight with my colleagues. I have Justin Kammer, who's our district assessment coordinator, and I have Sarah Hayden, who is our district instructional coach and curriculum coordinator. And we are here to talk about assessment. Before we get started, I just wanted to celebrate my team. So both of these individuals, they have such a wealth of knowledge around all things assessment, all things platform, curriculum. They understand how these tools support our systems. So I could not do this without both of them. And then Justin, I was looking back at my meeting notes. I was like, when did he bring this up to us in our Friday meeting? It was back in 2023 that we were talking about this.
Oh, really?
Because we had to do an assessment inventory for the state. And that really tipped him out. He's just he knows where they're going. He can see the trail. So we started thinking about it at that time, and then as things would come in, he put it on our standing agenda. So I just appreciate both of you for all of your work. So today we're going to have conversations about assessment. I feel like we should have a fireplace, a little fireside chat here with all of you. Some hot tea, yes. And we're going to talk about the current reality in Hood River County School District. We're going to talk about some specifics around Senate Bill 141, and then next steps. Okay, so why is assessment important? We know that meaningful evidence of student learning is so important. It guides our instruction. We adjust our teaching strategies based on this data. And Hood River we've worked hard to get to this point. Our data supports student growth. It fosters that individual student progress and development. It tracks our movement toward those clear learning goals for our school, our district, our schools, and our specific students.
So our current reality, we already have a pretty robust assessment system. So in K-8, we administer screeners 3 times a year. This includes DIBELS at our K-5 schools. DIBELS is our reading screener. iReady we use in our K-5 schools for math. And then in the middle schools, we use iExcel to assess math, and then STAR reading. We use all of the data that we gather, this data to inform database decision-making. And we use these tools to determine placement for our students in tiers of support. And all of the structures that we use to inform instruction, again, district-wide, school, down to the student. And then in addition to that, this year we implemented a district writing assessment, and I know that you heard from Justin and Sarah in a previous board meeting all about that. And this was really exciting for us. So this writing assessment we did the fall performance task. We just finished up with the winter guided writing task. And so we feel like, we already had the bones of a really strong assessment system in Hood River County School District. So we're looking at this as, this isn't scary to us. This is an opportunity for us to reinforce our current systems that we already have in place. We want to align our assessment tools. It gives us an opportunity to really look at those approved tools and think about our systems K-8. And we really want to take this opportunity to say, like, what do these programs offer, and how can we get access to really meaningful data for our students? In addition to that, like I said, we already have that really robust assessment system in place. We also have been spending some more time really building a deeper understanding of the Oregon statewide assessment, which is our summative assessment. It's included in our key indicator data, and we share this information broadly as one measure of student success. So we really worked hard with our teams to shift the mindset, and we're going to ask you to help us with that as well. So we know that this Oregon State assessment, it does fulfill a compliance requirement, but it also presents an opportunity to better understand our student learning. So in HRCSD, we really shifted that narrative this year. We believe this assessment provides rich feedback on how our students are performing on our state standards. So we do need to interrupt that narrative that, we're teaching to the test, and we want to proudly say that we're teaching to the standards. And this Oregon State assessment does measure those standards, and right now, it's telling us that we have some opportunities. So with that, Justin is going to get into the details of Senate Bill 141 that he's been talking about it since before it even existed.
I don't think it was technically 2023, although.
It was like a brief skim. It's okay.
If I have any premonition bone in my body, I owe that to my mother, who's addicted to murder mysteries. Her whole life is about figuring out within minutes of the show starting who did it. And she's so good at it. So maybe this is my
Your mom
my
and I should
gift.
hang out.
My mom gave me the gift to see where school leaders are going. Speaking of leaders, I'm going off script here just a little bit. I apologize.
I never do
Amy,
that.
we're talking a lot about budget today, and it sparked me to remember words from our own governor's mouth. So I'm going to read verbatim what she said almost a year ago to date in an interview with OPB. I am fighting for every dollar I can get into our schools. I know people say we just need more money. This is the hot button thing from our governor. We are middle of the pack in terms of how we fund our schools compared to other states, but we are at the bottom, and that's where the speaker was saying. We're at the bottom when it comes to our outcomes. That doesn't work for me. I'll get you more money, but I need better outcomes. It's not a blank check. The whole context of that conversation, that interview that she was having, was about Senate Bill 141. That's what this was about. The title of Senate Bill 141 is the 2025 Education Accountability Act. So the entire bill is about accountability, outcomes. Our state leaders want the line to go up. It can't flatline anymore. It can't go down. That's what they want. So there's a lot of things that the bill did, the things that we wanted to focus on, some of the things that we can't control, a lot of it's out of our control. But as Amy's talked about, there's certain things that we're already doing, and we've tried to be ahead of the game and just be really thoughtful and intentional about how we move forward. So item number 3, these are slides from ODE, so we're just speaking right from the horse's mouth here. Item number 3, there's a requirement for interim assessments. And then item number 6 on the next slide, we'll just touch on a little bit. This is about that continuum of supports. So there's a 4-year support plan where if districts are not meeting their goals, the state can come in and say, okay, well, we're going to help you with getting better outcomes. Again, because this whole bill was out about better outcomes. And then the key dates for interim assessments, it's next year, it's next school year. So the bill went into effect July 1, 2025, so that was last summer, and it directs us to choose our interim assessments and start implementing them next year. And then this is just their continuum of support slide to kind of like speak about what is the timeline here. It could be by as early as 2028, 2029, the state could be helping districts. That's how they frame it. We're going to help you find out how to get better outcomes for your students. Okay? All right, so what the bill, the timelines that it dictated, one of them was for the State Board of Education to adopt a list of interim assessments. And they finally finished that up at last month's, the February board meeting. And what they selected were Curriculum Associates and their iReady product, Renaissance and their STAR product, NWEA and their MAP Growth product, and then Cambium's interim assessments, which are the Smarter Balanced interim assessments. We are familiar with some of those and already use many of those in our system, as Amy was speaking of earlier. But there are a couple that we currently use that did not make the list. And the big one at the elementary level is DIBELS. So you've probably heard a lot about DIBELS and seen a lot of graphs even this year on how our students are doing on DIBELS. And that one hurts me, as that's a University of Oregon product. It was a brainchild right out of the UO Teach program, which is where I'm a product of. So an Oregon product not ending up on Oregon's adopted list seems so strange to me, but here we are. So we move forward. And then IXL, that's our math diagnostic tool that we use at our middle school level. So neither of those are approved on the list, and so we're gonna determine how to move forward in the absence of those. And again, fall 2026 is when we're expected to start doing this.
Can I ask a quick question? Yeah. As far as the assessments, did they say they're going to continue to use these for a couple of years so you can get continual information to build off of, or are they going to be changing it every year? Do we know that?
There's so many things that they have. They'll speak. So the number that was thrown out to me was 6 years. They want to stick to 6 years.
Because it would be nice to have, you could build on that information versus.
Yeah, but then just in the most recent meeting I was in, the director kind of like backtracked on that language a little bit, and I think what he realized is like, oh, I can't actually say that it's going to be 6 years for sure. There's going to be guidance that's published in May, late May, they said, that will spell out all of those details. But yeah, it's expected. They have no intention of allowing districts to like jump on and off a train every year. They want you to stay for a number of years. We just don't know for sure.
And they're doing it, I think you have to show declining growth, it's not just 1 year, like if you have a bad year, they look at it over 2 years. So I think they are hoping to at least block it into like 2 years of growth with the same assessments.
There's lots of this was a big bill, and there's lots of other things that we didn't touch on, but one of them is the similar districts grouping, which was finalized. So we're in group 1, cluster 3. There's a spreadsheet out there somewhere that you can look up who we're grouped with, and that will inform part of, the state is gonna set their performance goals, and then we co-develop at a local level, and then we're kind of measured against our similar districts. So as long as we kind of stay at the kind of upper mid of the pack, we likely won't have any intervention that's happening, but that's just how this is all gonna work out, so.
And it's also a growth, that it's predicated on growth, not like meeting a certain
benchmark standard.
benchmark.
You didn't hit 90%, then you're done. You're making consistent growth, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
As Justin said, right, we want to see that upward mobility. We don't want to see that flat line or anything declining. And the great news that in Hood River County, as Amy alluded to, we're really poised to, kind of face this head on. The one thing that we do have to look at are a couple new assessment options. being that Dibbles and IXL are not on the state adopted list, we have this opportunity, right, to explore which assessments would support our students, teachers, and community best. And so what are we looking for in these tools? And as you can see, you know, we spoke a little bit about MTSS in our strategic plan. We really are proud of our MTSS framework and what we're doing for our students to provide support across all of our tiers. And so we really have a value that we want these assessments to come alongside our current MTSS process and not just support it, but potentially enhance it. We are required by the state of Oregon to have an approved dyslexia screener. You know, and all of these products, hopefully Cambium as well, are approved dyslexia screeners currently. So
Not
that'll work.
Cambium. Cambium would be the one that does it, but we
yeah.
can
So
get into
there's
that.
some little things like that that are a little interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But don't worry, again,
Don't worry.
Justin is well informed. He's on lots of state committees.
There's some little things that don't add up, exactly.
Right. And again, we are really, really committed to having our assessments in both English and Spanish. And we don't want an assessment in English that is translated into Spanish. We want a Spanish assessment. And so we're really working hard with our curriculum partners to ensure that our assessments are available and they're authentic in both languages.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Regarding professional development on the administration of these new assessment tools, what are we looking at for
We are-
potential costs and
Well, we're looking for
additional
volunteers,
professional-
Dave. if you'd
Yeah,
like to-
you want to take the
It's gonna be all hands on deck, yeah.
pilot?
We've already met with our elementary and middle school MTSS leadership teams, right? So administration, reading specialists, learning specialists, and we've already kind of talked through what this transition could look like. And they actually said to us, they said, we don't want to spend a ton of time and resources and energy in selecting the right product. We want the time, effort, and energy in the professional development, in how we use it most effectively, right? In giving us that long runway so that we can hit the ground in the fall without missing a beat. And so we heard that very clearly. And so we've already been working with our partners and we're having demos where they're going through the product, they're talking us through that. And so hopefully we'll have a runway enough where we really feel that the implementation of this product isn't just checking a box, but it's really meaningful and supportive to teachers.
And it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Now you're getting it.
I
like it.
And I love professional development, so.
If you didn't
But
know.
then they go home and they're taking headache medication.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
But I like your enthusiasm.
Yes, and again, the assessment systems, iReady, STAR, and what we're seeing from our curriculum partners really support the MTSS system with reports, and we're really excited about how these products will integrate with Synergy, right? So we can have all of our information systems and our assessment systems talking to each other and giving teachers access to rich information that will drive instruction. I mean, again, so many great things could happen. All right,
need to
cost
take you
effective and
guys with me.
sustainable. With the adoption of new platforms, we're gonna be sunsetting old platforms, right? And not just platforms like the assessment platform, but potentially the reporting platform, M-Class that went along with Dibbles, and so on and so forth. So it will be cost effective and sustainable. Again, you guys loved that, you know, stewardship part of our strategic plan, and we aim to support that as well. And then efficient administration, right? We want to make sure that our students aren't assessed to death, right? We want to support instruction first off and foremost. So if the assessment is not informing and enhancing instruction, we shouldn't do it. So we want to make sure that that administration is efficient and supportive for teachers and students. And again, if it's not informing and driving instruction, then that opportunity has been lost.
Can't have that.
Cannot have that.
No. So our timelines and next steps. Okay, so January, February, that's like past. The state board has already approved the list of assessments, right? So we have those 4 to choose from. The teaching and learning team, which is sitting in front of you now, will hold preliminary meetings with all of the platforms. We've met with MAPS, we've met with iReady, and we've met with Renaissance. Between now and the end of the school year, we're going to be meeting with our elementary school teams and our middle school teams. We've met with them already once, and we have scheduled multiple demos, and we're actually having 2 additional demos next week. And then our plan is to choose a product that will work And then, as Dave kind of alluded to, that professional development, support for teachers, connection to synergy, so on and so forth. So that's where we're going to be in the next few weeks and months. And so our final thoughts. Again, I can't agree with Amy more in, changing the narrative in our district around assessments, right? Assessments are not a box to be checked or a compliance measure only, right? They also afford us the opportunity to really drive instruction in the ways that are meaningful for kids, right? Unless we know the areas that our students need more support, we won't be able to provide it in a timely, targeted, and rich fashion. And so this will give us that opportunity. So we want the teachers to be a part of this process and not only understanding the Senate bill, but also feel like, as Brandy said, you said it so beautifully when you were talking about the buy-in, right? And how having conversations and having our community and teachers being a part of this process will support its implementation. And so we really want that to be a focus as well. And then future growth. We are, as you know, always excited, right? We're excited about the opportunity that it affords. We're excited to get the best quality products in front of our teachers and students. And yeah, that's all. That's it.
I think that what we've talked about this a lot since 2023, to be exact.
Every Friday in our meeting.
Every Friday. I think when we talk about this, what Senate Bill 141 set out to do, like shift the narrative around, that data-driven instruction and decision-making, we're already there. So I think that's just, with this, we did the interim assessment in writing this year. We worked with our teachers. Our teachers are seeing the value in they got into this platform. We guided them with some, scoring and rubric training, and then looking at the data in a really meaningful way to make decisions for students. So I think we're embracing it, and we're excited about where we are, and we're excited about the opportunities. And I think that we've set the foundation for this to be a smooth transition. So with that, I didn't have a question slide, but do you have any questions? Happy to answer any questions. I know you're just so excited, aren't you?
They ask all questions mid-presentation.
Well, I have some statements. Yeah, statements. I know, believe it or not. So first of all, I've been in some of these meetings, and I will tell you that when I sit in these meetings, I am just overwhelmed with gratitude of how we are already on this path. And that is in large part to your team. Because there are schools that are starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And that is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And, we have fiscal responsibility, that we have some money for the professional development and all the things. I will take a little away from your positivity of, that was a frustrating thing about this bill, is that it came with no money.
Yeah.
And then there is costs. And so just to our community, when we are talking about budgeting, we have costs like these kind of things, which we can't anticipate. We did not know that the Senate, or that the legislature was gonna do this bill. And so, we always have to have a cushion to be ready to adapt to something like this. But mostly I am so excited about Teach to Standards, because for as long as I've been on the school board, we have said you're teaching to the test. And I love the alignment of what is on the test is what the standards are, and we need to teach those standards. That is our goal. And then I just have to give one shout out to Jen Kelly. Because she would be so happy if she was sitting here. She, this was her thought process for a long time, and I know that she was like to work with Justin and really get into his brain. Data. But it really is. Your slides showed it so well. It's not about accountability. It's actually about teaching our kids. And how do we get to teaching our kids better and getting them where they need to be. And that's really what our goal is, no matter what the state goal is, right? And so thank you.
I have talked to colleagues that are panicked.
Yeah.
that are panicking.
In
because
other
they-
districts.
And not here, other districts, not these colleagues.
Or just
But
downright
we're not
misinformation?
panicking.
You wanna tell your,
Yeah, I'll
your-
end with a story.
Okay,
I'll
tell
end
your
with
story
one
then.
last story. So, yeah, with this, the summative assessment is still happening, and this adds that requirement of those interim assessments. I was talking to a friend over the weekend who works in a different district, and we were talking about a little bit of work, talking shop, and she said, yeah, my principal we had a staff meeting, and she said, I'm so excited that we don't have to give the summative assessment anymore. And I was like, what do you mean summative? She's like, yeah, we don't have to give the state assessment anymore because of that SB. She rattled off 3 random numbers. And I was like, that's not right. You might want to check with him. And she said he announced it at the staff meeting, and she texted me. She's like, yeah, he has to kind of fix that with the staff because it's not correct. So yeah, I was just I was texting Justin. I said, I'm just very grateful that we've been in the loop, and we know what's going on, and we're confident, and we're, for us, it's going to be smooth.
And I will say one more thing. I so appreciate your focus on making sure that our English language learners are getting assessments that they actually can, that fit their needs and yeah, because that was a huge discussion. And that was a concern of a lot of people around the state of we need assessments that we're giving them the best opportunity to actually be assessed at where they are instead of being assessed on just their language skills.
Yeah.
Right. And just like any, product, right? You have to communicate the demand, right? And so as districts, we have to push back and tell our curriculum partners that it's a non-negotiable. And they rise to the occasion and say, you're absolutely right. We do need not just a Spanish interim, but we need progress monitoring as well. And so, I think that is super important. And in the state of Oregon, it has to be, it has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. Non-negotiable.
All right. Thank you guys so
all.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Your enthusiasm is contagious. Okay, we are moving on to action items. Appreciate all of those reports. We were going back to Mark DeMoss for a wildfire smoke preparedness in community buildings grant.
All right, so this is in the category of playing offense. We're going to be looking at an EPA wildfire smoke preparedness grant in community buildings. You may ask why. This grant allows projects up to $2.5 million, and it ties into some of our existing work, especially around Mover Grant, CREP grant out at Y East, as well as the Cascade Locks Planning Grant with CREP that we got, which is all the old thing used to be alternative energy and solar, and nobody wants to fund that at the federal level anymore. Now it's resiliency. And so if you ask what resiliency is, they'll tell you it's passive sustainability, which seems more amorphous than resiliency. But it's all about just making sure your buildings can withstand big events and that they're somewhat self-sustaining in terms of energy. Our goal with this is to partner on certain outreach portions. We've looked at putting a team together. We're going to be partnering with Oregon State University in their work that they've already previously done in wildfire on the outreach portions. We're working with New Buildings Institute, who's trying to devise some standardized coding around sort of the smoke values and things like that, and automated responses and protocols that go out as alerts and things like that. And they're looking at a multi-state approach, and we may be one of the pilot people they want to work with. But most importantly, pulling all of this together is the previous work we did at Y East with the gym. And if you remember, we did a study on the electrification of that system and that it would save money. But because of funding constraints and things like that that came down the pipe on all the alternative energy, we couldn't fund it. So lo and behold, this grant allows us to pay for upgraded heating, repair, air conditioning units, which is surprising because usually these grants don't do it. And so our plan is to put some money in not only for that, but probably also look at some of our other buildings like Cascade Locks and things like that and do some energy assessments work in order so that if there is a wildfire smoke preparedness event, that communities have a place to go and they can sit and
Breathe fresh air.
relative comfort, I guess. And so that helps us move a lot of things in the right direction. So I am asking for approval to quote it, because obviously if we get it, then we're going to have to take it. And so we are looking at trying to submit an application up to $2.5 million, and probably upwards of half of that will be HVAC improvements that we're going to come up with reasons why it is important for wildfire smoke preparedness in community buildings, and they can pay for our upgrades.
All right. Motion.
I move to authorize the administration to draft and submit an application for the EPA Wildfire Smoke Preparedness in Community Buildings Grant up to the maximum of $2,500,000.
I second.
Okay, moved by Dave, second by Jesse. Any other questions or comments for Mark? I just want to say thank you for being proactive with the winter that has happened and the dryness all over our state, many states. I just can't see how we won't be affected by smoke, so thank you. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, Monica, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Brandy, Jesse.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to donations. We have two donations tonight. Nate Clark Painting donated $8,242.66 worth of painting supplies and labor to Weiss Middle School. And Chad and Rachel Lindley donated $30 to Westside Elementary School. That is amazing. I know that Nate Clark has been a huge supporter of our schools for a long time and really puts his work to work for ours. And so we thank both of these donors very much for continuing to support our schools. And I will take a motion.
I move to accept the generous donations as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Jesse, second by Brandy. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Monica.
Aye.
Brandy.
Aye.
Jesse.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, we're going to move on to board member comments. And because I said I would do it, Dave, we're going to start with you.
Why did you say that?
I said it last time because by the time we get down to this end, everybody said everything good, and you were like, I can't say anything good.
Well, I'd like to thank the building for hosting us tonight. Starting off with recognition and good news, just it's wonderful to see the theater and music folks getting honored for all the work they put into those after-school programs, set design, and everything else that goes on that integrates our community and involves our community, and then they put on a production that's just usually very awe-inspiring, to say the least. And the reports and discussions that we had tonight, all three of those reports were excellent. And I'm very appreciative of Mark and the administration team putting together the budget scenarios and, turning over every single stone. Because, not every stone, is beautiful, but it's where we're at. So thank you for all of your efforts and your team for turning over all those stones. And the strategic plan update for looking 5 years in advance, I think I love that our school district puts the time and effort into having that kind of foresight, see what's going to come down the pipeline. So we're not always playing defense. Offense is super fun. And then the opportunities with our accountability report, holy cow. Man, sign me up. Teach to the standards, so thank you for the reports. That's all I have.
Jesse.
Hard to follow that. I think something I really appreciated, it's highlighted in every meeting we've had, but I think we just heard it a lot tonight, is really just how committed we are to getting input from everyone that these decisions are going to impact, from the staff to the students. I really liked hearing that we even talked to, middle school and high school students about the strategic plan and where we want to go with that. Because it's one thing for us to be here talking about it, but they're the ones that are actually going to, live through it.
and it's going to impact their futures the most. So it's great to have all of that input. Even hearing the public comment, everybody who spoke tonight, as much as sometimes I can be or feel uncomfortable, it's so good to hear that, and gives us the opportunity to rethink and really, like, as Dave just said, turn over every stone and think of every piece to make the best decision that we can to fulfill our, our mission and to align with our core values and everything that we're set out to do. So I really appreciate all of the input. I also, it's very cool to hear that some of our teams are so ahead of the curve. And not just with the accountability bill, but I remember too when like the cell phone bill passed and, a couple other things that have kind of been thrown at us. When I went to the OSBA conference, it was kind of a relief to hear that, like, oh, we don't really have to worry much about this. Like, we've kind of already been doing some of these things. So I really want to give a huge shout out to the staff that has been putting in that work and that has been so motivated already to do these things, that when they're like presented officially, we're kind of like, yeah, we're past that. We're already doing that. So that's really awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jesse.
Okay, well, I don't know how I follow you two, but but I would like to thank Mark and all the administration for all your work on the budget and continued work on that process. I know it's a really tough process. You're talking about our staff and our students and community, and it affects everybody. And we appreciate all the thought and process that does go into that. And then just to the strategic plan, again, so much work on that. And I think in reading through that, there's really fantastic goals, and I'm excited to see more when it gets to the specifics. And as far as speaking to our district kind of being ahead, and as far as opportunities and things like that, I really do think that we have great leadership that is really looking ahead and seeing what we need to focus on. So we're not like some of those other districts that are coming in saying, I don't know what we're doing. We got to get started on this. We're kind of already started, and we're just kind of fine tuning some things, which really says a lot for the district and leadership. So appreciate that. And then one last thing, just welcome to our new principal at HRVHS, Jessica Ramirez. And thank you to the interim principal for doing a good job as well. We appreciate him. So.
Well, that's pretty tough. I thought I was going to go first. No, but thank you so much. I'm going to bring up Read Across America. I thought it was fun for the kiddos. I have my fourth grader, and he was wearing his, he likes to participate and loves to read, so it's really fun to see the kiddos participate and do that for the Read Across. Recognition to the theater, performing arts teachers, and getting all the students together, and it's just a lot of work, a lot of love, and to see it all come together, it's very heartwarming. The Senate bill, the strategic plan, all the budget reports that you guys put together, and so much work. And I feel very confident and very happy to be part of this community that just puts all the work before it even comes. Now you guys are just picking a little bit, little by little, to refine it. So it's neat to say. And I wasn't here last on the 25th when we did the participations for the CTE. It was, I watched it all, and it was really neat. I'm bummed I missed it, but it's really neat to have all of those offerings for our students. So thank you so much for everybody, Hood River County School District, the families, and just all the community coming together.
Ditto. And I do want to just say once again, thank you for coming and speaking tonight. I hope that people continue to come and advocate because we need to hear from community members. I also hope that our community takes advantage of all of the information that's being put out and really looks at it because our team is doing a great job of getting things out early. And so, again, just want to encourage communities, families, parents to come and talk to us, to write us letters, but also continue to inform yourselves about what's happening with the district. They'll keep putting things out, and kind of just, so that we kind of can come to the end without surprises, whether it ends up being something that is a positive in your world or a not as positive, that you can see the process and that we have kind of come to it, slowly enough that we have the chance to talk. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who came to speak tonight, and I encourage people to continue to reach out to us, and that's what we're here for. So with that, and thank you, Mr. Newton, for joining us. I think it's, 11:45 where you are.
Is he still there?
He might be sleeping already. All right, we are going to gavel out at 8:45. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Oh, he's been sleeping for hours.
I feel like there should be some music at the end.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Night, Bill.
Yep.
All right. You guys did a good job.
Megan keeps texting me, opportunities.
Opportunities. Oh, Sarah.
Sometimes something just takes off,
I kind of need you guys just to live in my
Great
house sometimes,
I know, you guys do like
just to bring the positive.
Any setback in my life now is going to be an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Right?
Thank you guys for your thoughtful comments too. Appreciate those. What's today?
The 11th.
Did you see our emails back to the library donation?
Yes.
We didn't laugh or anything.
No, I sent an email back.
Oh, did you?
Very serious email about we're gonna put it into the library accounts unless we have a district-wide proposal. We'll just put them in there too, for accounts and librarians to fill out, consider.
Yeah, you notice we haven't had
Very
one,
boring.
we haven't had one